Alright guys, today we are going to do a Patreon request with ranking or tier ranking Capcom franchises. And there are a lot of Capcom franchises. As you can see, there are a ton. And I played a lot. And I really enjoyed a lot. So today I really want to talk about the ones that really just kind of made me fall in love with a certain franchise that Capcom has released. And as you can see, my list contained the GOAT, which means they are some of the greatest games of all time. Maybe not every single one, but there's enough that I consider them top tier. Some of the best games ever created need to be on that list. A ton of good games means that the majority of the franchise is really good, and I really enjoyed it, but there were a couple of stinkers that made me not enjoy it. Pretty solid means that there's some good, some bad. Mostly, I still enjoy the franchise. Okay-ish means there's one or two games I like, the rest not so much. And then not worth your time means get the fuck out of my face. Now, I already put some that I never played. These four I have not really played. And then there's one or two other here that I played a little bit that I might put in there. But if I have enough to talk about, I might rank them. We'll get to that later. But let's jump right into Ghosts 'n Goblins. Now, Ghosts 'n Goblins is a game that I played when I was a kid, the original. And yeah, it pretty much made me want to destroy myself. Some of these games, Capcom, you really made me upset. Still a really well-made game. I actually replayed it about 5 years ago, and I still enjoyed it. I mean, it still made me want to just kind of murder someone, but I didn't. But it made me want to. And for that, I think its name out there is pretty much known everywhere. But what I really want to talk about is Maximo. There were two Maximo games, Maximo Ghost to Glory and Maximo vs. the Army of Zin. And these games were, to me, my childhood for PS2. These games really worked for me on a lot of levels, especially Army of Zin I played a lot. They're not great games. They're mostly hack and slash, it feels like. But they definitely have the challenge. Not quite as hard as Ghosts 'n Goblins, but still really tough at times. And I really just enjoyed it. Now, overall, would I say this is a great franchise? I don't think I played enough to really say it's a great one. But I do love the ones I have played and enjoyed for what they gave. So I'm going to put this in pretty solid. I think the 3 games that I played, I liked all 3. And while there's a lot more, some I actually never heard of, like the Ghosts 'n Goblins Gold King or Gold Knight. I never heard of this. Maybe I should check it out. But yeah, this is going to go in pretty solid for me, as I think the 3 that I played, I enjoyed. Alright, so Mega Man. This is the original series. I have just recently played them all. I recently ranked them all. And there were some that weren't great, but there were a lot that I really enjoyed. So Mega Man is a game that is definitely a series that pushes you to your limits a lot of times, makes you really kind of get that accurate jump at the right moment, shoot at the right moment, memorize a stage so you don't die so much. It gave me a lot of moments of close to having an aneurysm, so that was fun. But at the same time, I just overall enjoyed the gameplay loop a lot, and I beat all 11 games within like a month and a half. So obviously I enjoyed this series. But there are some stinkers, there are some poopy goopy copy coops that we're going to talk about in that video if you want to watch my ranking of all the Mega Man original series. But overall, I think it's still a really solid. There were only like 1 or 2 that I really didn't like. The rest I enjoyed for the most part. So yeah, I'm going to put it in pretty solid. And I'm going to put it in front of Ghosts 'n Goblins or Ghouls 'n Ghosts, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Why is that different? It's Ghosts 'n Goblins, right? Or is there another game called Ghouls 'n Ghosts? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. But anyway, Mega Man. Great stuff. Pretty solid putting it in there. Alright, let's talk about the Big Mama. The Big Mama Roo. Resident Evil. Man. When I think of horror franchises, Resident Evil is highly ranked up there. I should probably do like the top best horror franchise. I haven't done that yet. I don't think I have. But Resident Evil just really as the main series. I'm not talking about all the spin-offs and everything. I mean, we can. There are spin-offs, and I guess they count. But let's talk about the main series, 1 to 8. Those are the ones I'm counting, and I guess you can count 0 and Code Veronica. There's a lot of good games. Most of them I really enjoyed, and with the remakes that recently came out for 2, 3, and 4, they enhanced the games for me. I personally think the remakes are better than the original for all 3 games, including Nemesis. That's right, everybody. I like the remake more. Either way, Resident Evil, quality, quality time. However, I will say that Resident Evil 6 is a fucking blemish on this beautiful series, and I also dislike Code Veronica, and Zero I didn't like too much either. So those do drag it down a little bit, so I don't think I could put it in the GOAT, unfortunately, because I think those games are pretty not great. And then if you add all the spin-offs, a lot of them suck. There's this one, Raccoon City, I think it was just called Raccoon City. It was a PS2 game, and it was absolutely one of the worst pieces of shit I think I ever popped into my PS2. My PS2 actually wanted to eject it and say, get the fuck up out of my system, you stupid piece of shit game. But besides that, the Resident Evil series is pretty solid. I'm not going to put it in GOAT, but I am going to put it in a ton of good games, because let's be honest, there are a ton of good games in that series. Alright, so Devil May Cry. This series is close to my heart because Devil May Cry, the first game, was the first PS2 game I ever played. I popped into my system when I first got my PS2 as a kid. I was, I don't know, what was I, 12? Something like that. And maybe younger. And unbelievable. Like, I was in shock how fun this game was. It was fast, it was quick, it looked gothic. I loved that shit back then. Dante was so cool with his little silver hair. You know, you got a fucking humongous sword that's bigger than you, slicing away at demons. Yeah, Devil May Cry really did stand as one of those games I absolutely loved. And then Devil May Cry 2 came out, and I used my birthday money as a kid. I was like 14. I was like, I'm going to the store. Can I get Devil May Cry 2? Oh, thank you so much. I go home on my birthday. I put it in my system and I play it. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this garbage ass shit? Yo, Capcom, who the fuck was smoking? Ooh, some good ass shit, but bad ass shit because you made this badass game. I really want to know what the fuck went wrong. I want a documentary of them making Devil May Cry 1 and then making Devil May Cry 2 and getting this garbage piece of shit game. I mean, it was absolutely one of the biggest disappointments of my life in terms of gaming. I put it in, hated it. It was my birthday. I wanted to fucking smash the fucking goddamn disc. This game sucked dick. Luckily, Capcom said, well, we fucked up. Let's make Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 3, while I don't, you know, a lot of people as the greatest of all time, I don't think so, but I do think it's a really great action game. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think Dante is really fucking annoying in it, but a lot of people like this Dante. Overall, it was fun. Devil May Cry 4 and DMC were good games. I enjoyed them, but they also both had flaws. And then Devil May Cry 5, I think, is excellent. Now, that to me is one of the best action games in the last few years. So, overall, Devil May Cry has made a lot of great games. But because of Devil May Cry 2, I cannot put it in the GOAT. Plus, I think DMC and Devil May Cry 4 are both good, but not great. So, it's a ton of good games. But if Devil May Cry 2 was the only game on that list, that would go in not worth your time. You should shit on it. Alright, so Dead Rising. This is a really interesting series because I feel like a lot of people love this series. And for me, I think it's okay. All three games are okay. I do think, surprisingly, that they do get better as they kept coming out. Dead Rising 1 had the biggest problems for me with the time constraint. I didn't really like the mall environment that much like everybody else did, and the controls were just throwing me for a loop. However, Dead Rising 2 I think got more fun, and Dead Rising 3 was the most open world one, had the most zombies at once, it was the most goofy, and it worked well for me. I don't really have much to say about the series other than I think they're all okay. They're all decent, but none of them are, I would say, above a 7 out of 10. The first one I think is actually pretty not good. I would give it like a 5.5. I didn't like the first one that much. But yeah, so I'm just going to put an okay-ish. I think it's an okay-ish franchise at best. Alright, so the strange thing about this list for me is going to be that I am not a huge fighting fan. However, I played a ton of these fucking fighting games. and Street Fighter is one of them. Street Fighter is one I grew up with. It was enjoyable. I stopped playing after Street Fighter 4 because that just kind of was when I kind of stopped playing fighting games for the most part. But Street Fighter 4 was dope. It was one of those games I actually played quite a bit. I played online with my buddies, and overall I think Street Fighter is a very solid series. I wouldn't say any of them blew me away, and none of them are my favorite fighting games of all time, at least in my opinion, but all of them that I played, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I enjoyed all of them. Now I don't know how 5 is, or is it 5 that just came out, or 6 now? But I've heard a lot of good things about 6, so that's awesome. But for me, just because what I played and what I enjoyed, it's still a solid series. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to put it in front of Ghouls and Ghosts, even though I think it's Ghosts and Goblins. Just because for 4 alone, I put quite a bit of hours in, and I also love the graphic design in Street Fighter 4. Alright, so we have Ace Attorney. Now, these are kind of like detective-style lawyer games going on. A lot of it is just going from screen to screen, talking to people, figuring out clues, and then going to a court case and trying to win the battle. These are a lot of fun. I played the shit out of these games when I was on the handhelds a lot. I think I beat the entire Ace Attorney series, and then they came out with other ones from other characters, and I didn't really play that too much. However, from what I remember, I really enjoyed these games. Kind of like Street Fighter, though. I don't remember loving any of them. I just enjoyed them all. I think what would be interesting if we got an Ace Attorney series with voice acting. I don't think any of them have voice acting. So I'd be interested to see it one day if we get that type of game. Yeah, overall, Ace Attorney is still a really solid game. I think most of them are good. And it really, to credit to Capcom, they make a lot of really solid franchises. And Ace Attorney is definitely one. And again, I'll put it in front of Ghosts and Goblins. Alright, so Mega Man X. Mega Man X is the Mega Man series that I grew up with, to be honest. Mega Man, the original, I only played 1 or 2 before I recently played them all. Mega Man X, I played 1, I played 4 and 5 a lot growing up because I had the PlayStations. And then I played Mega Man X 8, which was kind of the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. But overall, Mega Man X is a series I played more of originally as a kid, and I enjoyed them all. It's definitely more accessible to play than the original Mega Man games because they're not quite as hard. And now with the remasters, basically, there's an easy mode or an armor mode that gives you even more health. So I feel like Mega Man X is a lot easier to get into. It looks cooler. I think the designs for Mega Man are really awesome. You know, overall, I enjoyed the series quite a bit. I played it a lot when I was younger. Now, the thing is, though, I haven't played them all. I am going to get to that. I just replayed 1 so far in the collection and really enjoyed it. But I really got to replay them all to give you my honest opinion if it gets to a ton of good games. But from what I played, I think it's a really solid series. And I'll put it right next to Mega Man. I actually like the original series more a little bit now that I played them all. But overall, Mega Man X is still really solid. So Rival Schools, I don't know if a lot of you guys know of this series, or series 1 game. I don't know if there were 2 games. I think I only played the first, but either way, I played this a lot because of the because of the cover. I was really into anime at a younger age, and of course now as well, but I was really getting into anime when this came out on the PlayStation. I was just getting into like Dragon Ball and stuff, and so the cover I thought was really cool. And I played this game a lot with my buddy Jimmy, who you might have seen on my videos. He's done a couple with me now, and it was a lot of fun. It was really anime feel, which is surprising because they also made Street Fighter, Capcom vs. Marvel, all that we're going to talk about. But this felt the most anime-ish. I don't think this had any anime before it or anything, but it felt like an anime in action. The game was good. It was fun. It you know, it kind of felt like Street Fighter-ish, but not as quick. You know, overall it was an okay game. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it for my childhood. But I also liked a lot of games that I enjoyed in my childhood that don't stick with me. But yeah, that's gonna go in the okay-ish for me. Decent, but not super memorable. Alright, so the Lost Planet series. I've kind of talked about this before. Not a big fan of the Lost Planet series. Lost Planet 1 wasn't good. Lost Planet 2 was better. And Lost Planet 3 wasn't that good either. And in retrospect, looking back, I would say this is not a horrible series. I don't think it's really the worst thing ever. I think Devil May Cry 2 is worse than any of these games. But saying that, I don't think this game is really worth anyone's time. You could probably live with never playing this game. I probably could have used that time playing these games to play better games, is what I'm saying. So I don't think it's really worth your time. This is one of Capcom's weakest franchise out there for me. Marvel vs. Capcom. Now, this is a pretty damn good series. Marvel vs. Capcom 1, 2, and 3, especially 1 and 2, especially 2, I would say. I used to play this shit in the arcade in a bowling alley all the time with my friends growing up. It's a really fun game. It's really interesting how they were able to give love not only to Capcom, but also to Marvel. You get to play as some of the coolest characters in the 90s from Marvel that just kind of really made this so fun. The speed of this game is so fast, but so solid somehow. I enjoyed Marvel vs. Capcom 3 a lot too when it came out. I didn't feel it was as good as 1 or 2, but it still was really fun. Marvel vs. Capcom 4, I think it was Infinite, that one wasn't very good. The graphic design or the overall tone or whatever, the art design was fucking ugly. I don't know what the fuck they were going with that design, but
you ugly as fuck.
But the gameplay was decent. This is a good franchise. It's a solid franchise. It's a tough one though because I do like 2 a ton. That was a really fucking good game. So it had 1 bad game and 3 really good games. I think it deserves to be in a ton of good games because 3 out of it is pretty good. I'm gonna put it behind Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry still is a better franchise for me overall, but it's some good shit. Alright, so Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis was basically Resident Evil with fucking dinosaurs. None of these games really ever left an impression on me. They were all okay. They all have the old style Resident Evil camera that I'm not a huge fan of. Believe it or not, Resident Evil to me didn't really get amazing till 4, but then the remakes fixed all the problems I had with 2, 3, and 2 and 3. So for me, Dino Crisis has always been an okay-ish series. I do give it credit that's a decent enough series with dinosaurs in it, which we don't have a lot of good dinosaur games, so I like that. But honestly, it's just Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and it's going to go an okay-ish. Yeah, I'd probably put it right above Rival Schools. So Final Fight, this series is interesting for me. I know I keep saying that, but it's a series that I don't remember too much of, but I played a lot when I was growing up with my cousin because it's a beat 'em up. And so with that, it was obviously fun to kind of be like this arcadey feel of beating the shit out of a bunch of people on the street. It was a good game. It was a good, fun beat-em-up game. Beat-em-ups aren't one of my favorite genres. I get really bored of them, like, very quickly. But as a kid, the nostalgia of it really did hit me well. And I think they're all pretty well made. Again, it's been a very long time since I played it. I think I played one, I don't know, maybe like 15 years ago, maybe a little less. And I enjoyed it from what I can remember. It was kind of like a new version of them after so many years. But the original ones, the ones in the 90s, those were the ones that really kind of hit for me in terms of making them really fun. I'm going to put it in pretty solid because of the nostalgia, because I think it's a good series. And because, you know, I had a lot of fun with them. So it's got to go in a pretty solid series. But I think I enjoyed like Ace Attorney, Street Fighter, and Mega Man series, both of them a little bit more. Viewtiful Joe, the first one, I really enjoyed. The first one was so wacky, so over the top, so fun. It was kind of a commentary on superhero stuff, but the Japanese world of it, like looking at manga and stuff like that. The combat was really flashy and different. Pretty much this game really impressed me with the overall design. It felt like a comic book, but also making fun of it sometimes, but also like a tribute to it. Viewtiful Joe 2, I thought was really good as well. I thought that it was solid and a nice upgrade, and also I just felt overall it was a good continuation. Not great, but good. So these 2 games are really good for me. Loved overall the game feel of it. Was different than anything else. And then came out like these fucking beat 'em up like Hot Rumble or Double Trouble or some shit. These games I didn't like pretty much at all. So kind of just ended the franchise there. So it's kind of sucky because I think half of the franchise is not good, while the first 2 are really good. So I'm going to put it in pretty solid. I think I'm going to put it behind Ace Attorney though, because while I enjoyed the first 2 games, the rest weren't that great, and then we never really got more of it. And it's kind of sad to see a franchise that I feel, especially nowadays, with so much manga and so much comics that are so big, we deserve another Viewtiful Joe game to kind of bring that to light. So as it is, it's going to be in pretty solid, but not great. Alright, so Monster Hunter. This is the series that really, really made me fall in love with killing motherfucking dragons. Or monsters. Or anything. You know, I did a ranking on the Monster Hunter series, and obviously there's some games that are better than others, but when you looked at my ranking, there was nothing horrible. And that's saying something. I think they were all good. I think they were mostly great, and I think there's some fantastic games that are some of my favorite games of all time. I'm talking about some of the greatest games that I've spent 200, 300 plus hours in. I mean, these are games that really, really just I fell in love with and couldn't get enough of. If you really want to see my ranking of the entire series, you can check out that video. But to make it short, Monster Hunter is one of the GOATs of video games for me. I think it's one of the greatest franchises, period. For Capcom, it is their best series, in my opinion. It is the funnest. It has the most replayability. It's the one I put the most hours in. So Monster Hunter is that series for me. It is the GOAT of the Capcom franchises. Capcom vs. SNK, this is a weird one for me because I like it, but I also don't know shit about SNK. It's a game that I only played 2 of them. I don't know if they made more, but I only played 2, and I like both of them. But again, these are games that didn't really blow me away. I thought they were just okay. They were good, but if I'm going to play a fighting game, I just rather play Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom from Capcom. So Capcom vs. SNK, I think it's an okay series. I probably put it the highest of the okay-ish because it has the most solid work, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, overall, it's okay. Breath of Fire. Now, this is a Japanese RPG series, and I'd never played 4. I played 2. I played 3. Enjoyed both. I don't think I played 4, and then there was Quarter. I don't think that's the 4th one. That one fucking sucked like big donkey balls. I don't know if anybody else played that game. It's not a good game. Don't ever let a revisionist tell you this game was fucking good back in the day. It was not a good game. It's overly hard. The mechanics are shit. It's an ugly fucking game, and it's just shit. It's shit. So there's that. So fuck that game. But the other Breath of the Fire games are good, especially 2 and 3. I remember really playing the shit out of 3 back in the day. I really got to revisit this franchise because of that. But I'm going to put it in pretty solid because there's not a lot of them. I think there's only 5. And the ones that we did get, there's really only 1 stinker. Because I've heard 4 is good, and I played 1, but so long ago. For 2 and 3 alone, I think it deserves to be in pretty solid. Yeah, I'm going to put it here because I remember really liking 2 and 3. You know, I'll put it for Viewtiful Joe. Alright, and last but not least, Onimusha. Onimusha. Alright, so Onimusha. Where the fuck is a new Onimusha game, Capcom? Come on, man. Like, Onimusha to me was a franchise I grew up with. I love this series, especially Onimusha 3. I also like 2. Surprisingly, a lot of people didn't like 2. I think because of the change of characters and everything. But I like 2. I think the combat was really good. 3 definitely went back to the characters we love. And then they made an Onimusha, like, Warlord or something like that. I didn't really play that much. I enjoyed it, but I didn't play it that much. But Onimusha 1, 2, and 3, these are like the defining PS2 action games for me. Like, this is as high as Devil May Cry. In fact, I played 3 and 2 so much that I think I played it more than almost any Devil May Cry. I used to replay these games because I loved Onimusha so much. I think I even had a review back in the day when I started this YouTube channel of Onimusha 2 and 3. But yeah, I love Onimusha. I think it's a great game. Has this really awesome Japanese, like, kind of folklore feel, but also modernized some ways. And it did mix like old Japanese style with new, especially in 3. I think they like went to the real world or some shit. It was crazy weird, but also really fucking fun. So yeah, Onimusha to me is a ton of good games. I didn't dislike any, and 1 to 3 are absolutely amazing in my opinion. I'm gonna put this in front of Devil May Cry because this is a series that I play probably the most behind Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. And that's my list. And, you know, looking at this list, I gotta say, the best part about my list, in my opinion, is the fact that there's a lot of good fucking games. Capcom really knows how to make some really goddamn good franchises. Like, pretty solid means that a lot of good games in these franchises, and okay-ish doesn't mean even bad. They're just okay. Like, you could probably play them. You might like one or two of them in the series, but overall, they're good. They're decent enough to play. Really, the only series I would say is not worth anyone's time is Lost Planet, because it's just such an empty feeling, lifeless kind of game. That was, to me, Capcom's kind of weakest period of making games. So yeah, Lost Planet, I'm going to go with, that's the one that you can probably skip. But what about you guys? What do you think? Capcom has made, obviously, a lot of good franchises. I think this is all of them. If they're missing some, this isn't... I didn't create this list, but this was a list online. But what would you think? Where do you think your rankings would be? If you don't want to rank them all, because these are a lot, where would you put the GOAT? What do you think is the GOAT, the best Capcom franchise? What do you think are great games, or a ton of good games in the franchise? What do you think are okay? What do you think are okay-ish or not worth your time? If you don't have a list of all these games, because these are a lot of games, some of these I haven't even played all the games in the series, that's fine. But just put what you think are the best franchises and what are the worst below. I would love to see that. And if you guys like this video, as always, my two biggest things I ask you to do for me is hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button. If you love this video, that means I know you want more to see and enjoy from me. And if you want to share this, that'd be awesome. But I love making these tier rankings. Any suggestions on your guys' end, if you want to see stuff, you can put them below. I usually have my Patreons first, so if they want to see some, I focus on making something for them. But if I don't have anything on the list to make, I will make something maybe you guys drop below. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. Go play some video games and have a really good nerdy time.